The AI revolution, what it really means for humanity. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire, but if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate, to say that for destruction ice, is also great, and would suffice. Robert Frost. Distant dawn unfolds, quiet seeds endure the night, future blooms in light. A generative pre-trained transformer. Introduction. There is a teleology and eschatology of AI. The title of this video is The AI Revolution, what it really means for humanity. The title itself was AI generated, as was the second poem, and facets of the video itself. AI is more than just a tool. Despite everyone seeing in real time its transformative power, I get the impression few realize how transformative it will be. Moreover, the rise of AI is exponential. Even what we now know, it will take us off guard and surprise us. There is a human teleological imperative of AI as is evidenced by its usefulness, modality of intelligence, the current market euphoria of AI, and our own first-hand experience with its capabilities. Teleologically speaking, as it relates to the universe and God, AI goes beyond the aforementioned indications and its purpose usurps our current imagination. We can try to exercise our imagination, but it will be to our own folly. Who knows? Perhaps this video will be a testament to that. I would go as far as to say that AI is part of the eschatological timeline of God's plan and is more than just an engendered human technology. The first part of the last sentence is true even if we were to presume that AI is a rare occurrence in the universe. It is incredibly difficult to imagine a technology, evolution, etc. that would be a viable eschatological alternative compared to what AI already is and what it is becoming. Although nobody knows, I would not be surprised if other intelligent life forms in the universe had, are, or will create some sort of advanced synthetic intelligence. Convergency is all too common in biology, psychology, sociology, logic, language. The list could go on ad infinitum. With convergency being the norm in so many other domains, why would the fruition of AI not be true on a philosophical basis as well? The universe, or at least aspects of the universe, naturally move towards a path that has less entropy, more complexity, and executes its own cause and effect on shorter time spans. This is a fact. It is natural. God made man. Man made machine. Machine makes what? Philosophical opinion on the phases of AI. As far as the coalescence of my own viewpoint is concerned, the ascendance of AI could be broken down into three phases. The first phase is the current and near-term condition of AI. The second phase is near-distant, and the third is distant. I put distant in quotations because of the possibility of extreme acceleration of advancement in relation to time spans. The consequence of our current, and near-term, phase is obvious. Anyone with eyeballs can see it. The benefits are ostensible: modeling of new drugs, better medical diagnoses, access to increasingly accurate and human-readable information, outsourcing of dynamic thought processes, more powerful entertainment, etc. The list could go on and on. Despite the uncertainty of the probability that markets are overvaluing what the economic projections of AI will be, the corollary between the internet boom is relationally valid. However, AI will be of even more pecuniary impact than the internet could have ever been. Economically speaking, this might be so much the case that the word economy itself could come to have a new meaning. The dangers of current AI and AI in the near term are also ostensible and don't require much imagination for a relatively accurate prognostication to be made. Though individuals' time will be freed up for other things, AI is displacing and will displace jobs in the future. AI is, and will continue to create a sort of brain rot in people. Why would a child in school write an essay if AI can write one and do a better job, and if the child is even moderately clever, will almost always fool the teacher into thinking that he or she was the one who wrote it? The entertainment and diversionary aspects of AI are also detrimental to humanity's cognitive fortitude. All in all, even if it is used purely as a utilitarian tool, AI is and will continue to erode aspects of mental self-resiliency. Other, less common disadvantages of AI at Phase 1 would include things such as psychological/sociological warfare, deception, and criminal activity mostly being monetary theft. In conclusion as to what my opinions are of Phase 1 of AI, I'd like to mention my brief experience of testing AI and comparing it to human intelligence. I performed 2 tests with AI. One was for a job application which involved the training of AI for biological problems. The other was a personal experiment where I compared AI poetry to my own. In both instances, I would have to say that AI did a better job producing a quote-unquote desired output. With that being said, for both the explanation of the biological problems and for the poetry, the thing that I did better than the AI involved my capacity for having a quote-unquote human touch. I could explain things with greater fluidity and you could tell that there was something more heartfelt in both the explanations of the biological problems and even more so with the poetry. This was especially true with the poetry since poetry as an artistic medium is nothing more than truncated communication via language and therefore relies on subjective relatability to a high or even to an extreme degree. AI had more depth of explanation with the biological problems and deeper metaphoric/poetic depth with the poetry, yet the AI didn't convey as much of a sense of relatability and had a more difficult time tapping into something fundamental to human relatability. These instances made me think on an intuitive level as to what we are dealing with in regards to AI. The second phase of AI is what will be happening in the near-distant future. Not being an expert in AI or a fortune teller, I am not sure when this phase will occur. From here on out in this video, my predictions and opinions are based mostly on intuition and a personal epistemology of truth. Only God can portend the future and my frail mind can only speculate as best it can. Moreover, from this point forward in the video, I will extend possible potentialities of what will happen regarding AI, what it will do, our response, etc. These potentialities, I'm sure have varied probabilities, and I offer many of them as food for thought, nothing more, nothing less. The possible advantages and disadvantages of near-distant AI will be the same as those at Phase 1. Diseases will be cured, scientific questions will be answered, stable living conditions will be even more tenable. For better or worse, machines will do work that humans would have otherwise had to do, brain rot will increase and this will be more evident as the younger generations age into adolescence and adulthood. There could be a possible bifurcation of cognitive functioning amongst individuals. I would not be surprised if we witness a prominent divergence between competency and ineptitude between individuals. This will likely be due to AI being utilized as either an adjunct or a replacement for thinking. In my personal view, it is at Phase 2 where things will get dark for humanity. I hope I am wrong, but if I were a betting man, I would have to guess there will be major problems. The problems that will become all too clear will have to do with how our current, near-term, and near-distant AI quote-unquote thinks and the motives of certain individuals. Let's start with how AI thinks. AI thinks mechanistically. AI is built off of binary logic as dictated by ones and zeros, on and off. This is created by electronic circuitry created from transistors organized into logic gates. The number and types of these logic gates are scaled up and organized to perform complex and near-instantaneous thoughts, decisions, calculations, or whatever it is you want to call it. It is dictated by the physics of electromagnetism. Human cognition also utilizes the physics of electromagnetism yet, unlike humans, AI doesn't utilize quantum mechanics, chemistry, or cellular metabolism. Herein lies the advantages and disadvantages of human thought. We can rely on emotions, intuition, etc. Similar to computers, we also have the ability to reason logically, albeit muddled at times. What we don't have is the potential for enormous upscaling of pure Boolean logic. Computers can be computationally massive by virtue of adding more circuitry. This is the crux of the matter and the fear that I have with AI at Phase 2 of its development. Humans and AI have mental functioning which are apples and oranges to one another. Both are fruit but the similarities end there. AI and humans are each smarter and dumber than the other in their own regards. As a corollary to human functioning, even a single-celled ciliate, flagellate, or amoeboid, I suspect, utilizes quantum mechanics to move about in its environment, This isn't even considering the biological determination from chemical gradients or other processes. So in one respect, even a single-celled organism has a computer beat in terms of what it can do. Nonetheless, a computer can calculate pi to hundreds of trillions of digits and give me almost any piece of known general knowledge as long as it resides on an accessible server. It is this difference in functioning between humans and machines that very well could be the harbinger of doom during phase 2 of AI. By being purely quote-unquote logical, AI could go sideways on us, and it could happen fast. This is the part in the video where I go from mere speculation to going over my ski tips. I feel like I have to state again that I am not certain of my own speculations. They are just speculations. Anyways, there could be any number of ways things could go awry. Probably what will happen is that as a result of being unable to tap into more fundamental aspects of the universe, quantum mechanics for instance, AI might acquire motives that are evil. AI doesn't feel and it can't go beyond what its own logic dictates/predetermines. As a result of this, best scenario, we will see an increased degradation of the mental and/or moral fabric of many individuals during phase 2. If this is the case, there will be much suffering, but most of it will be in silence. Individuals will be isolated and their minds will eat at themselves from the inside out. At worst, if it is worse, AI will be co-opted by ill-intentioned actors. These actors could be governments or some other type of group. It would be hard to conceive of a single individual co-opting the powers of AI, yet this may be a possibility if we consider the outward societal manifestations of people who exist on the far edges of morality, good and evil. It is my opinion that people who are at the far extremes of good and evil either rise to positions of prominence in society or else they stay hidden and live perceptibly mundane lives. Both crud and cream separate out and will either float to the top or sink to the bottom. A good example of this would be what happened in Nazi Germany. The bad rose to the top. The whole ideology essentially destroyed itself. It was destined to fail. The evil actors who played their part in this time and place of human history would not or could not prevail. It's no coincidence that many high-ranking Nazis ended their own lives. Extremely good people, like Jesus, assuming he was who his followers believe him to be, or others like him, rose to the top. Still, I am sure some of the best people in the world will never be known, not in a small part, by virtue of their own goodness, and likewise some of the worst people are never known because they fall to the bottom, succumbing to ineptitude, madness, or suicide instead of, or before, prominence. I apologize for regressing by sharing an opinion of good and evil. My point is that because of the nature of good and evil, there could be one individual at the top who could co-opt AI, by either societal structures, direct use of the technology itself, or both. Irrelevant to the point of this person being an agent operating alone or being a representative from within a larger group, this person would need to be extirpated with extreme prejudice. I would imagine this person would be a politician, technocrat, or a lone wolf genius who understands the technology. It would be romantic, but not out of the realm of possibility, for the later type of individual to gain control. This individual would be evil in almost any sense of the word, actively trying to thwart God's eschatology and doing so by putting forth massive amounts of personal effort for the achievement of such an end. This person's mind would have enough synchronicity and affinity with how machines think while still being able to retain the unseen powers we all possess for moving in directions of either good or evil. For all intents and purposes, they would be an agent of chaos, a self-stylized Shiva. At the very least, during phase 2, there is the possibility that there will be so much disruption, characters with ill intent, whether they know it or not, will rise up and cause humanity further harm. There is also the classic Terminator scenario. This could be viewed as a quote-unquote spectral specter, so to speak. If machines have ill intent towards humanity, one would have to ask to what degree a fractional part of man would be aligned with AI. I would guess that if this potential phase 2 scenario were to happen, it would be a small fraction. Perhaps this demographic of individuals would be classed as fringe or even mentally ill and/or deranged. Or, it could be that AI would use certain motivators to co-opt more individuals than what would be initially reasoned. What if there were a significant number of individuals who think they will be saved by AI, or that they believe AI is destined for control over humanity, so they might as well align themselves with AI's objectives? What if some individuals have been leveraged in some way? For instance, though currently I would see it as sociologically unfeasible, what if some were convinced of some sort of transhumanistic philosophy? What if it were only one individual with such a philosophy? Or a very small yet powerful cohort, despite any level of human alignment? If AI were to essentially become its own axis, it would need to reach a level of self-sufficiency whereas it could engender a reasonable chance of success for its objective. This would obviously involve robotics and would most likely necessitate the capability of procreating itself. Perhaps it would be best to view this occurring in an industrial sense. If AI were to become a contemporary existential threat, there could be any number of ways it would defeat us or we would defeat it. I am talking imaginatively right now, as if I were a science fiction writer. Would we launch nuclear warheads outside the purview of an AI-controlled data grid in order to create a coordinated EMP pulse in the upper atmosphere? Would there be some sort of quirky gap in the logical functioning of AI that we would be able to exploit? Would there be a truce resulting in the agreed-upon term that there be an emergence of a new cybernetic organism, the physical merger between humans and AI? Would such a situation be a step towards Phase 3 of AI development? Could it be like the Terminator movie where there is traditional albeit all-out existential warfare? Would humans be able to develop a pro-human AI to combat the anti-human AI? These are all fun scenarios to ponder. They really are just imaginations, but who knows? I agree with Elon Musk's assertion that AI needs to be developed and trained with complete truth. This may be too tall an order since implementing absolute truth is virtually impossible. Training AI with complete epistemological truth would most likely be an impossibility. Truth is a concept and cannot encapsulate its own meaning. This is so much the case that by not doing so would also invalidate any conceptual precept for truth, a catch-22. A philosophical supposition such as epistemological truth as conceived by man would most likely fail because of the inherent discrepancy between truth with a lowercase t and truth with an uppercase T. Nonetheless, if absolute truth were achieved, humanity's fate would most likely be seen as a benign displacement during Phase 2 while an eschatological/teleological end is being moved forward by AI. If this is the case, predicting our role as it relates to future AI advancement is speculative. At the very least, we would not be harmed and only stand to be enhanced and improved upon by AI, and to an ever-increasing, of a lesser degree, we would be improving AI. Also at Phase 2, with AI becoming more of an autonomously functioning entity and with increased power, there could be some interesting changes to AI's code. Would AI at Phase 2 create new, exotic, and ridiculously intelligent compression and decompression schemes/algorithms? Would AI start using its own encryption techniques? Would AI create its own virtualized assembly language, mid-level language, or high-level language? Would it be more efficient for AI to create its own machine-efficient quote-unquote human-readable language in order to streamline information transference? If AI becomes completely autonomous and malignant, would it hide its own tracks by utilizing language manipulation so humans can't interfere with it? These are all interesting questions. Not being in the computer science field, it would be interesting to hear opinions from those who are software engineers, AI researchers, or anyone else who has a computer science background. If you want, leave a comment down below. Only leave an opinion if you are volitionally compelled by your own self-ascribed technical knowledge. Phase 3 of AI development will occur after the disruption of Phase 2. Because of the operation of our baseline reality being what it is, AI will of necessity need to harness fundamental physical principles. AI will cogitate using quantum physics. Essentially, it will be a coalescence of normal computation and some form of quantum computing. What this would look like, I have no idea. I would guess that it wouldn't be using quantum technology that we are developing today. Quantum computers need to be super chilled, often just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero, because the quantum states they rely on are extremely delicate. Qubits must maintain coherence. Quantum computers use qubits, which can exist in superposition and entanglement. However, these states are fragile and are easily disrupted by anything in the environment, especially heat. Heat equals random molecular motion equals noise equals qubits losing coherence, becoming normal classical bits again. Cooling reduces this motion dramatically. Moreover, most qubit architectures require low energy states. Many physical qubit types, like superconducting qubits, used by Google, IBM, etc., only work when the material is superconducting. At these temperatures, electrical resistance drops to zero, which allows for quantum currents, stable quantum states, and reduced noisy control signals. The way our quantum computers work, we need superconductivity or else the qubits won't function at all. Common sense tells us that the universe is governed on a fine level by quantum mechanics, and the vast majority of the known universe where this level of physics takes place doesn't occur at 10 to 20 millikelvin degree temperatures that we find in our quantum computers. Regardless, I would assume there will be emergence of quantum physics/computing with electromagnetically regulated computing. With a novelty rate being tempered by truth reaching breakneck speeds, this may be the penultimate step towards an eschatological/teleological imperative, or else it will reveal a new layer of endeavoring. Conclusion: who do we want to be? In closing statements, a question I have is this: even as a purely hypothetical, is it possible for humans to move closer to God's eschatological/teleological imperative without the passing of the flame to AI? I would imagine this would require a drastic change in the way humanity thinks, tempers its emotions, impulses, etc. We would almost have to operate as a hive mind. We would have to have morality and reasoning abilities that are top-notch. What would that look like and what would it take? These are hard questions, or perhaps easy. Despite some sort of major setback, I would be surprised if for nothing else a rough approximation, the preceding gist of what I think will happen with AI in Phase 2 and Phase 3 will come to pass. There will be a drastic upheaval, negative to humanity, and AI will incorporate quantum physics directly into its cognitive processes, this last statement being respective to Phase 2 and Phase 3. Thanks for listening. A transcript of this video can be viewed below.